Hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man's Court Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. Today, I'll be finishing off my Unfold Diaries marathon for you guys. And the first video I'm reacting to today is 3 true disturbing home invasion horror stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
A few years ago, I took a trip to visit my family.
Okay.
I planned to stay with them for a week. Then we would go to the coast for another week, and then back home. I really needed this break because I had just ended a confusing relationship. It was on and off. Like one day we were together, and the next day we weren't. This went on for 7 months because people say, you should fight for what's important to you, right? Anyway, I eventually decided I was done with the relationship. So, no more chances, and no more trying to make it work. I was just done. With that part of my life was over, and I was happy to be somewhere else, surrounded by family, and starting to put myself back together. When I arrived, I spent a couple of days sleeping a lot. My mom, who is a nurse, got worried that something might be physically wrong with me.
Okay, first of all, I'm glad that you broke it off with someone who was very controlling. You're just probably exhausted from all the arguing back and forth, and now you're with family. You feel like you could just sleep peacefully. I mean, I guess that's what's happening right here. I'm not no doctor or nurse, but for 2 days, if I was her parent, I would have been worrying too. But anyway, let's continue on with the story and see what happens next.
But I just needed a couple of days in a safe place where I could think about my new life when I got back home.
Oh, for sure.
So before we went to the coast, I met a friend from school that I stayed in touch with. I thought it would be just us, but it didn't bother me that another person was also there. We spent time together, and then I had to go home because I had to take a rural route through the woods, or I could take a different route that would take 20 minutes longer. Since it was a wooded area, I needed to watch out for deer. I said goodbye and told my friend that if he ever came to where I live, he should contact me, and we could have a drink and hang out. I told him to get my number from my friend, and then I left. About halfway home, my stomach started feeling weird. So I slowed down, and guess what? There was a deer in the middle of the road because I slowed down. Then I saw another car on the road. I couldn't shake the weird feeling, so I thought it would be better to change and go to the main road where there are more places to stop. I really didn't want to stop in some farmer's driveway in the countryside.
Yeah, you and me both, because you don't want that person coming out there with a shotgun yelling, "Get off my property." It's always better to pull over at like a shop in town or a restaurant.
As I've seen too many horror movies to make that mistake. So, I went to the main road and stopped at a gas station. I sat there for a couple of minutes, trying not to feel sick. I went into the store, got some water and ginger ale, and came back to my car, still unable to shake that weird feeling in my stomach. So I left the gas station and didn't want to go straight home. I drove around, taking different roads, until that weird feeling in my stomach started to go away. Then I went home, read for a bit, and went to sleep. The next day, everything was okay, and we went to the coast. Fast forward 2 weeks, the trip is done, but sadly, I still feel a bit sensitive about the breakup. I thought I would start getting rid of negative feelings in my surroundings and deal with the emotional baggage from the breakup. I knew there was a lot, and it would take time. The next day, I was going about my day, sorting through the stuff left behind after the breakup. Everything was okay considering the circumstances. I was doing simple tasks to distract myself and not think too much, because my brain was already working overtime. Later in the day, my phone rang. I don't get many calls, so I thought it might be a family emergency that I needed to respond. The caller's area code matched my cousin's, so I answered without much hesitation. It turned out to be the person I met at my friend's house. It was a bit odd for him to call me, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I asked him what was going on, and he said he was at the airport. I thought it was a bit strange, but I asked, "Oh, that's cool. Where are you going?" He told me he had already landed. I was still distracted and just wanted to get off the phone so that I could go back to my thoughts and zone out. So I wished him a good time wherever he was. Then he dropped a bombshell and said he needed me to pick him up. I was like, "What? Did you just say you need me to pick you up?" He said, "Yeah, I came to visit you." Hold on a second. I know for sure I didn't show any more interest in him than general politeness. Even the casual "look me up" comment was just a nice thing to say, because you don't really plan on meeting them again. I asked, "Why did you come to visit me?" He said he felt a strong connection and wanted to be with me. At this point, I'm getting mad and freaked out. I told him I didn't feel any connection at all and couldn't believe he flew across the country to see someone he only spent maybe 2 hours with. He said I invited him when I told him to look me up. I said, no, that's just a polite thing to say to some random person who didn't make a big impression on me.
Yeah, that is really strange. This girl is still trying to get over her breakup with her ex, and then all of a sudden, this stranger that she met flew to where she's staying at just so he can hang out with her. A lot of red flags is going up in my head right now because I know if you don't pick him up, he's going to find a way to get to your house. Which I don't want to jump ahead with things, but I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. I've been telling this dude, be like, I don't want to offend you, but you know how crazy that sounds? I don't even know you that well. Very creepy.
Then he explained that he needed a place to stay until he could get money for a plane ticket back. I told him there are plenty of hotels he could stay at while figuring things out. He said he didn't have money after buying a random one-way plane ticket. At this point, I'm shocked, angry, and freaked out that someone would do that on a one-way ticket. I eventually gave in and said he could stay the night while we sorted things out, but I expected him to leave no later than the morning after tomorrow. So, I take him to my place, put pillows and a blanket on the couch, and go to my bedroom. Then he asks if he can sleep with me. I'm like, no. There's no way that's happening. I make it clear that I have guns, and he shouldn't try to come in. The next day, I have to go to work, so I wake him up and tell him to find a way home right away. I also tell him I have to work, but we'll check on his progress, because I'm dropping him off at the airport the next morning, whether he has a way back or not. But when I go to work, he blows up my phone all day, wanting me to come back for lunch. I tell him no, as I'm too busy. I finally get home from work, and I'm laughing at a text about my dog. That's when I see that he changed everything. I mean, every room in the house is different. I get really mad, and ask him why he thought it was okay to do what he did. Instead of answering, he asks me who I've been talking to. I say it's not really his business. Then after a few minutes, I got a text from the guy watching my dog while I was on vacation. I'm really surprised when he says he doesn't want me to talk to that guy. Now, I'm not just freaked out. A big, disastrous situation is about to happen, and it won't leave anything behind. The atmosphere gets really tense, and I calmly tell him to grab his things, as I'm calling a cab to take him to the airport because he's acting crazy. Just to mention, when I'm really angry, I get super cold. If I'm just annoyed, it's a quick thing. But if I start speaking really calmly, especially with a slight tilt of my head, that's when I'm seriously furious. So, he's unaware of this icy shift in the atmosphere, and the chances of survival are dropping fast. And in the middle of all this, he decides to drop a bomb and tells me he used my computer to get my ex's phone number. And both of them agree that I was just heartless. We're getting close to a big disaster, and finally, he seems to realize how mad I am. Then I calmly explain to him that it's highly unlikely he got into my computer because it has a complicated password, like a part of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I told him he'd need the processing power of the Hadron Collider computers, and it's clear he doesn't have that. Then I told him he had only 3 minutes to grab his things and leave.
That is very rude of him to ask who she talking to, but then to say that he got the phone number of her ex and agree with what he said is straight up bull. If he doesn't know how to access her computer just to get that number, he's lying. But yeah, his company is way past the welcome stage at this point. He needs to hurry up and get his stuff and get out of the house before she ends up calling the cops to remove him.
Or I couldn't guarantee what would happen. So while he's still yelling insults at me, he collects his stuff and goes. He used to call and text me a lot. I'd block one, and then he'd send 6 more, but that eventually stopped. To this day, I don't know, and I don't care about where he is or if he made it back.
Well, thank God this did not turn out to where he got kicked out by her and then he showed up later in the middle of the night trying to break in. Then this story would have been turning head over heels quick. But thankfully, she got him out of the house and hasn't heard from him since, so she had nothing to worry about now. But let's get to story number 2.
This happened 5 years ago, when my fiance and I lived in our house for a little over a year. I'm a big guy, 6 feet tall and around 225 pounds, with a naturally muscular build and a somewhat intimidating look.
Okay.
My fiance is a small person, 5 feet 2 inches tall, weighing about 130 pounds. Our house has 2 levels, and when you enter through the front door, there are stairs going up to the living room and down to the basement. But the only way to get to our backyard is through the sliding glass door in the upstairs living room and down the stairs from our deck. At that time, I was partying a lot, maybe more than I should have. I was also in between jobs, and it was the end of the holiday season, so I wasn't really focused on finding a new job like I should have been. Many nights, I was out having fun at parties, and I would end up staying overnight with friends, so my fiancé spent a lot of nights alone with our 3 dogs. I had a serious problem with drinking too much alcohol, and unfortunately, it was causing issues. Fast forward a few months, I got a new job that had random tests for drugs and alcohol. Looking back now, this was a blessing. I had been sober for just 2 days and was working on fixing things with my fiancé. Later, she told me she was happy that I was trying to quit alcohol and focusing on our relationship.
Yeah, I'm glad he's admitting all this too, because if he just kept on drinking and started to make things difficult at home with his fiance, then he would have lost it when she said she would have been leaving. But I'm happy that he's got a good job and is now sober.
I didn't think much of it, gave her a kiss on the head, and told her I loved her. Later that night, while we were watching TV downstairs, I thought I heard something moving in our backyard. The dogs heard it too, but I didn't think much of it, because they just perked up their ears, not looking too worried. A moment later, I heard the noise again. Now, my fiancé quickly muted the TV and gave me a nervous look. "Did you hear that?" she asked, looking uncomfortable. I told her it's probably just some neighborhood cats playing in our bushes, as there are many outdoor cats around. But she shook her head and kept saying it wasn't the case. Before I could even ask her why she was so sure, I heard our sliding glass door upstairs slam open. All 3 of my Great Danes and I jumped up in an instant. The dogs barked so loudly and fiercely, and we rushed up the stairs, with me right behind them. As I'm going down the first stairs, and the dogs are getting to the top of the second stairs, then I see the sliding glass door slam closed, and I notice a man's shadow running away. I reach the door, open it, and the dogs push me aside to chase after the person. I grab my big flashlight, one of those large ones that cops use with 4D batteries, and run into the yard. I had just gotten down the deck stairs when I saw the dogs going crazy at the back fence. I sprint over, jump the fence, and just in time, I see the man reaching the opposite fence, trying to climb over. He's wearing all black, a thin black hoodie with the hood pulled tight to hide his face, and jet black cargo pants. Without caring about my safety, I ran at the man, but barely missed grabbing him as he climbed over the fence. I kept following him, and went around the front of my neighbor's house just in time to see him jump into an old beat-up pickup truck and drive away fast.
That's scary to even imagine happening. You're sitting there watching TV and then you hear a noise and all of a sudden you hear the sliding door open up, and then once your dogs start running up the stairs to run after whatever made that noise, then you know someone is clearly breaking in the house, probably to steal something, didn't know you were home. But if you recognize what car he got into, call the cops.
I watched for a moment as he sped out of the neighborhood and vanished into the night. I rushed back home as fast as I could to check on my fiancée and make sure she was okay. When I entered the house, she was sitting in the upstairs living room with all three of our Great Danes, holding the biggest knife we own. She looked really scared, but she's a strong woman. She told me she was ready in case anything bad happened to me.
That's good. But she don't have to worry now because that man is gone. He ain't coming back ever, hopefully. Because now he knows they got Great Danes in the house. They can run up and knock him down on the ground. I'm just glad that nothing was taken or they didn't get hurt by this dude.
After we called the police, gave them our statements, and made sure every door and window in the house was locked tight. Then we decided to watch another movie, as we weren't tired because of all the excitement. While we were watching the movie, I asked her why she was so sure earlier that it wasn't just cats playing in the yard. What she told me made me realize it was time to change my lifestyle. Then she said for about a month, she'd been hearing weird noises around the house late at night. She heard footsteps outside and sometimes what seemed like people whispering. I asked her why she never told me. She just shook her head and said she didn't know. After hearing this, I realized that the man knew I wasn't home at night, and my fiancé was alone a lot. Luckily, he didn't notice our three Great Danes, and for some reason, on that night, he decided not to check if she was alone again. Since that day, I've stayed away from things that caused problems, like alcohol and parties. It's been 5 years now, starting from March 1st, and I haven't left my fiancé alone overnight. Our relationship is stronger, and our three Great Danes are amazing dogs. This experience completely changed my life for the better. To the creepy wannabe burglar, whoever you are, let's not meet.
His fiance heard a bunch of noises before. She should have told him, since he was there and the dogs were there to keep her company. They don't have to worry about this wannabe burglar coming back, because that guy would be stupid to show up when her fiance's there. Just glad they're okay, though.
I used to live in an apartment on the first floor. I had a neighbor named Joe right next to me, and two more neighbors on the sides. One evening, while the sun was setting, Joe knocked on my door. He was a bit chubby, had brown hair with a bowl cut, wore glasses, and had on a button-down shirt. He said he went to different doors, asking if someone could take care of his dog over the weekend because he had to go on a sudden work trip. I said yes to watching his dog, thinking about possible issues that could come up. So I asked for his phone number, just to be prepared in case something happened. But that was a big mistake from my side. I didn't realize it back then, obviously. I just wanted to be a good neighbor. Then we talked a bit about video games and playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it seemed like we had a lot in common. I was just being friendly, nothing more. I had my wedding ring on, and I made sure to show it by brushing my hand across my face. My husband was away at that time, and I didn't think much about it. Joe came back on Monday morning, and I gave him his key. I didn't ask for any money, but he said he wanted to repay me in a different way. Then Joe mentioned his office was having an escape room event, and he could bring a friend. I agreed, thinking it could be fun, as he seemed like a cool person, and maybe we could become good friends. When the day arrived, I wasn't feeling well, so I spent the day on the couch, cuddled up with my sweet cockapoo named Cortana. I was really sick and couldn't go to work that day. I texted Joe to say I couldn't make it to the event, and told him not to worry about paying me back. Joe replied with a simple, okay. I didn't say anything back, and just went to sleep.
He acts all nice now, but I guarantee you, since you didn't go to that escape room event because you're sick, he's going to think you're faking it. That's what I think.
He kept texting me over the next few weeks, but I didn't understand what he was saying until the very end. A few days later, he suddenly texted me, asking why I didn't invite him to play Dungeons and Dragons. At first, I was puzzled because I didn't tell him about it, so my guess was that he heard me talking in the hallway as I left with my friend. But after that, things started getting a bit weird. Right outside his door, there's a good-sized area of grass where I'd take Cortana to do her business. She's usually a calm dog, sniffing around on the ground, and not really looking up when she's exploring or going to the bathroom. But this time, out of nowhere, Cortana turned towards the window where the blinds were shut tight and started barking like crazy. So I felt really embarrassed about it. Cortana had never acted like that before. I tried pulling her and telling her to be quiet, but she wouldn't listen. Every day when we went to that grassy area in the afternoon, she would bark like crazy at that window. So I decided to take her somewhere else to see if it would make a difference. And it did. I went back after about a week and found out that the blinds were pulled all the way to the top. The window opened and Joe popped his torso all the way out, stretching his arms to the sky. My first initial thought was just, who does that? I say an awkward hello, and then hurry Cortana along and back into our apartment. A few days later, there's knocking on my door almost every night. To see who it is, I quietly go to the door and find out it's Joe, just standing there, peeping through the hole. After a while, I get a text from Joe, asking if he can take me out to dinner. I'm totally confused, staring at the message and not sure what to say. Not even 3 minutes later, he sends another message saying, I'm just trying to be friendly after you didn't come last time. Sorry for being friendly. I wish I had a picture of my face because I must have looked so shocked that even Cortana sat up to stare at me. I want to make it very clear. I'm a busy person with a lot of happening in my life. So I usually don't reply to texts right away, like never.
Yeah, I can see why you regretted giving your phone number because he's bothering the heck out of you by texting. But seriously, she couldn't help that she was sick and couldn't go to that supposed escape room thing with him. But thank God he hasn't broken into their apartment. But I'm surprised he asked her out on a date when obviously she has a wedding ring on her finger. She's married. Unbelievable.
At that point, I was pretty scared. I called my mom and told her what was going on. I worried about what might happen if this guy tries to break into my apartment and hurt me, all because I couldn't make it to some event and felt too sick. My mom suggested I firmly tell him that my husband wouldn't like me having dinner with another man and that his behavior was inappropriate. It was strange, but Joe only stopped bothering me when I talked about my husband. Ignoring him, avoiding him, or quickly leaving when he opened his door didn't work. Even after that, Cortana would still growl at the window. A few months later, I moved out of that apartment, and thankfully, I never heard from Joe again.
I think that was the good thing to do. Because if you stayed there in that apartment while your husband's away, Joe would just try to use every advantage to lure you out to him. But luckily, you don't have to deal with him no more. But also, delete or block his number off your phone because you definitely don't want him to try to message you ever again. But that guy was clearly out of his mind. Hold on. Unfold Diaries titled this video 3 True Disturbing Home Invasion Horror Stories. Oh well, let's react to this one too.
In my country, you can only buy alcohol when you're 18. So if you don't have a fake ID or your parents don't help you, then you have to wait outside the liquor store. It's like a shop that sells drinks. You wait until someone agrees to go inside and buy the alcohol for you. So we waited. Then a few minutes later, we found a person who said yes to buying our alcohol and asked him to get a few bottles of vodka for me and a couple of friends. 2 friends were with me, and we were meeting another friend after we finished doing this. Now, since it was about 6 p.m., we thought it was too risky to pour our vodka into a different bottle on the crowded street. So, like we usually do in this situation, we found a nearby place that sells food. We quickly went inside and used the bathroom to pour our alcohol into another container. And after that, we were ready to continue having a good time. This time, we decided to do it in a nearby McDonald's. We knew it was a safe choice because we had done it there before. So we went into the McDonald's and headed straight for the bathroom, just like we had done many times. Me and my 2 friends, Harriet and Cara, all went into one bathroom stall to do what we needed to do. As I mentioned before, we had done this a lot, and we usually picked this McDonald's because it was often busy, and people didn't pay much attention to 3 teenagers going straight to the bathroom without buying anything. We finish what we're doing, and as we're about to leave the bathroom stall, we hear a giggle. Guess where it's coming from? I look up and see the forehead and eyes of a guy, maybe around 30 years old, peeking out from under a lifted tile in the ceiling. We're all surprised, just looking at this guy who starts giggling and asking for our names, where we're going, and if he can join us. We're shocked because, seriously, who expects to find a random guy in the ceiling of a McDonald's? Being a teenager who felt invincible, I told the guy he was creepy and to go away. But the guy seemed to enjoy this and giggled a little more, still shifting around in the ceiling, never taking his eyes off of us.
Well, at this point, I'll be finishing up what we were doing in the McDonald's stall and get out of the bathroom and go to an employee and tell them that there's somebody literally hiding in the tiles of the bathroom ceiling, because that is really creepy. But also, I was going to say, you better make sure nobody pays attention to you going to the bathroom, because you never know, somebody might be alerted that you might be doing something illegal, like getting alcohol and poured in another container to make it look like water, some other type of drink. You really can get busted for that.
Now, I should probably mention that, along with pouring our drinks into other bottles. We pre-rolled a few joints, so we were scared to alert anyone at this point, as we were young and terrified of our parents finding out about it. The guy, still staring at us, keeps asking questions like, "How old are you boys? Where do you live? Can I have some of your drink?" He's still moving around a lot up there. Then he starts lifting the tile. We're all stuck in the bathroom stall with this guy above us. We realize the only way for him to come down is to drop right on top of us. So we left there really fast. We went outside and talked about what to do. I chose to go back in and tell someone because it's a very busy McDonald's, and I knew there would be ladies and kids using the toilets until they closed. I didn't want to take a chance that the weird guy would stay up there to watch them, especially since I saw what he was doing. I went in and told a worker that I'd been in the bathroom for a long time talking on the phone. It was a bad lie, but I was too scared to tell the truth, in case they called the police. Surprisingly, when the guy showed up, the staff didn't seem shocked at all. They were just mad, more than anything. I saw some guys who worked there go into the bathroom, and I thought they could take care of it, so I left. We still went to that McDonald's, but we never saw that weird guy in the bathroom again. We don't know if he got caught because we didn't hear anything about it later. This happened almost 10 years ago when I was 13. My friend and I were super excited because it was our first time going trick-or-treating without our parents. We lived in a small town where not much happened, and we thought it would be just a regular night. It started just like any other Halloween night. We went around collecting candy, bumped into a bunch of our friends from school, and had a blast. Around 8 p.m., we realized it was time to go home, but on our way back, we stopped by our teacher's house. She wasn't there, and the street was pretty dark because there weren't many streetlights. On top of that, most houses had their lights off, and the Halloween decorations were taken down. So my friend and I felt a bit scared and disappointed because there wasn't much candy on that street. But suddenly, a man came out from under a streetlight. He turned out to be a police officer. We didn't notice him before because it was dark. He surprised us, but he was really nice. The cop introduced himself and pointed to a regular house. Then he told us that an older man in that house was inviting trick-or-treat inside. He said that someone called the police, but when they got there, nobody answered the door. Then he kept saying that his police car and partner were just around the block. We looked around, but we couldn't see the police car and partner. I was a bit paranoid as a kid. My mom loved watching crime shows, and she'd share little lessons with me. One of them was about fake cops, although I can't remember the details. Some people pretend to be police officers to make others trust them. After that, I felt scared during the whole conversation.
Oh, yeah, I'll be too, because if you don't see a cop car and a guy just walks up to you saying that somebody called the cops on a man inviting trick-or-treaters into his house, but you don't see the trick-or-treaters going to it, then this cop is definitely lying. It's just a guy using that disguise to lure innocent people to him. Oh boy, try to end this conversation and go.
As something felt off because he didn't have a badge, police car, or partner. But at the same time, he was smiling and seemed like he really wanted to help us, and that made us confused. Then things got weird when he made a strange request. He said he needed to talk to a potential predator and wanted our help. Because we were young girls, he wanted us to knock on the man's door, and he would hide behind the bushes. The plan was to wait for the man to invite us in, and then the cop would jump out and catch him. At that moment, I knew my friend felt the same as me. We both went quiet, but one of us managed to ask if we could talk about it. The cop agreed, but said we didn't have much time, as he could hear everything in the quiet street. I remember feeling like I wanted to say something, but I was too scared he would hear us and make things worse. We just stared at each other for a really long time. The cop was getting annoyed and told us to decide quickly. Just then, a family came down the street and saw the officer. They were coming over to see what was going on, but that's when the cop said he'd be right back and told us not to leave. My friend and I quickly gathered our thoughts and decided to run away. We sprinted out of the street and didn't look back. On our way home, we talked about different ideas, like him being a fake cop, playing a prank, or maybe us just misunderstanding the situation with a real cop. When we told our parents, we made it sound less serious and doubted what happened. We didn't call the police, but our dad went to the house and around it. There were no cop cars or officers anywhere. Over the years, I regret not calling the police. We told our class the next day, and most, including our teacher, didn't think it was a big deal. Looking back, it's strange that a police officer would put two kids in such a possibly dangerous situation. I really wonder why he did it, but sadly, it will stay a mystery. And I guess that's just how things go sometimes.
Okay, I forgot to mention on story number 4, why would Unfold Diaries add this story to this video? Because they're not invasion of privacy in a home. It was over at McDonald's. But I am glad that them boys got out of that bathroom and some tough guys wandered in there, so that guy kind of got scared and probably never showed himself again, which is good. But on this story, if somebody acts like a cop and they're trying to get you to walk up to a door of a supposed predator, red flags would be going up in my head. And then by the time they get home and they told their parents about it, they just don't think it's that serious. I'd be like, of course it was serious. But I figured that one of the parents went around on that street, that person would have been long gone. But thankfully, they did the right decision and leave, because if they stuck around, they would have been involved in something and they did not want to be involved with. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Unfold Diaries content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I said that's a wrap. Have a nice day, y'all.